In a world where data is the new currency and technology holds the keys to power, one name reigns supreme: Alex Sterling. The son of tech mogul Marcus Sterling, Alex lives a life of consequence-free luxury. But beneath the surface of this gilded existence, Alex is playing with fire. He's developed an app that blurs the line between entertainment and manipulation, turning people into pawns in his digital playground. His app, known only as The Game, gives him a glimpse into the lives of those around him and a lot of control of it. But when Isabella, a local journalist known for her ethical integrity, starts digging, Alex's world begins to crumble. What started as a game quickly becomes a dangerous battle for control. From secret backroom deals, personal attacks to dangerous confrontations, the consequences of Alex's actions threaten to explode in his face. Get ready for a rollercoaster ride of tech-fueled drama, corruption, and a fight for what's right. We're going to be pulling back the layers of this tech elite and showing you what's lurking underneath. Before we get started, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. If you are enjoying these thrilling stories, make sure you are subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. The air in Alex Sterling's penthouse hummed with the low thrum of servers, a symphony of processing power that was music to his ears. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the sleek, minimalist design of his living space, a testament to his tech-savvy aesthetic. At 24, Alex was the picture of youthful success. He was tall, athletic, with a perpetually amused glint in his blue eyes. He had the kind of effortless confidence that only comes from a life where every desire was met before it was even voiced. He leaned back in his custom-made gaming chair, fingers flying across a holographic keyboard. Lines of code danced across the transparent screen, each command a brushstroke on the digital canvas he was creating. He was perfecting the game, an app unlike any other. It was more than just an app. It was a lens, a key, and a weapon all in one. It allowed him to subtly access and manipulate the digital lives of those around him, all under the guise of a social media platform. His father, Marcus Sterling, the legendary founder of Sterling Tech, was his idol and his biggest supporter. Marcus had given Alex everything: the best education, the latest gadgets, the freedom to explore his interests. In return, Alex was determined to make his father proud. He'd always been fascinated by the power technology held, but it wasn't about changing the world, it was about mastering it. A notification popped up on his screen. "Party tonight at the Obsidian Lounge." Alex smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips. Time to test the next level of the game, he mused. He looked at the screen and saw an old friend, Ethan, posting about his worries about the upcoming exams. He chuckled, knowing Ethan is his perfect first target. Alex typed into the app a little line of code. The sound of the city, muted by the soundproofing of his high-rise, was the background music to his perfect, consequence-free life. He was, for all intents and purposes, the Code King, and his kingdom was just beginning to expand. He was the one who was going to redefine the next step in tech. The Obsidian Lounge pulsed with bass, the kind that vibrates through your bones and makes your teeth chatter. The air was thick with expensive perfume, the clinking of glasses, and the low murmur of conversation. Alex surveyed the scene from a secluded booth, a smirk playing on his lips. The place was packed with the city's elite, socialites, tech founders, venture capitalists, all bathed in the cool blue glow of the club's LED lights. It was his hunting ground tonight. He pulled out his phone, the interface of the game shimmering on the screen. He had already installed the app on many of the club's guests' phones under the guise of an exclusive new platform. It was designed to look like any other social networking app, but on the back end, it was collecting data from phone to phone. He clicked on Ethan's profile, his old friend, the one who was so worried about exams. A feed of Ethan's current location, his texts, and his web searches appeared in front of Alex. Alex smiled. The app was working perfectly. It allowed him to manipulate the environment around him, influencing people's emotions and their behaviors with subtle pushes. He saw that Ethan was standing by the bar, looking overwhelmed. On a whim, Alex decided to change Ethan's music preference in Spotify and made a notification appear about study groups. He typed in another command into the game, an order to a local bartender to make a strong drink for Ethan, which will make him drunk more easily, a drink that Ethan had told him in a text just yesterday he did not like. Within minutes, Ethan was downing a drink he didn't even like, nodding along to pop music, and had decided to contact a study group. Alex watched him, a sense of detached amusement washing over him. He wasn't just playing a game, he was orchestrating a symphony of human emotions. He could see other guests, their anxieties, their insecurities, their hidden desires. The game was a window into their souls, and tonight he was their puppet master. He shifted his attention to a group of young women laughing in another booth. His eyes lingered on one in particular, a woman with a sharp gaze and an air of self-possession. He clicked on her profile on the app, but there was nothing there, all blanks. Her name was Isabella Reyes, and unlike all other users in the club he could not get into her profile, there was some kind of security block. It made her more interesting to him, a challenge. He decided to test the limits of the game. He started manipulating the music in the club, changing the tempo and the genre in time with his mood, and he could see the reactions on people's faces. People looked like puppets, going with his flow as he manipulated them. He had complete control, complete power, and he reveled in it. His smile widened. The game wasn't just working, it was exceeding his expectations. This was more fun than a video game. This was better than any virtual reality. It was the ultimate test of human nature. He had made sure that he would be the only one to control it. Tonight was proof. He, Alex Sterling, was the architect of his own reality. Isabella Reyes sat at her desk in the small, cluttered office of the City Beacon, the local independent newspaper she worked for. The office was a far cry from the sleek, high-tech spaces that Alex frequented. The air was thick with the smell of old newsprint and stale coffee. Isabella, however, felt more at home here than anywhere else. She was 32, with a sharp intellect and an unwavering commitment to ethical journalism. She had a reputation for digging deep, for uncovering the truth, even when it was buried beneath layers of wealth and power. Her focus tonight was the growing buzz around new social media app, The Game. She'd noticed the way people were behaving at social events, almost puppet-like, too happy, too sad, too angry, or too sad, all at the same time. This new app was popping up everywhere, but nobody knew much about it or its developer. She had a feeling something was amiss, and not for good. She began researching every post that was online. She could see that people were posting all kinds of emotions and actions, but the tone of these posts was strangely similar. Something was pushing these users towards those posts. There was something wrong here. She searched through online forums and talked to local tech enthusiasts. Many of them knew very little about the app. Most couldn't even find the App Store page, but they were using it, and they were using it a lot. Her research led her to a trail of breadcrumbs about Sterling Tech, Marcus Sterling's tech empire, and its elusive son, Alex. She had heard rumors about Alex's app, the one he was developing secretly. She hadn't paid much attention before, but now, with the app's sudden appearance, she was more and more curious. She decided to look into it. Alex's profile had almost nothing. No social media, no public statements, nothing at all. He looked like a ghost in digital space, almost like a fictional character, which was suspicious. The more she dug, the more the app started to make sense. She started to ask around if anyone knew who developed it or where it came from. All she had was a name and a picture, a young, attractive man named Alex. Many said it was the next big thing, but they seemed to be just repeating the things they have seen on others' posts, like puppets following an order. She looked closer at the picture she had and could see those same emotions, the same manipulations she had seen in all the social posts. Was there some kind of brainwashing being done via this app? She knew she had to find the answer. Isabella looked back at her old reports. All of her gut instincts were telling her the same thing. The game was dangerous, and she needed to uncover the truth about it. She started to gather her notes, the evidence of suspicious social media behaviors and the elusive profile of Alex. She had a feeling this story was going to be more complex than anything she'd ever covered before. She knew she had to be careful. Powerful people didn't like to be exposed, and Alex Sterling was the most powerful of all. But Isabella wasn't afraid. She was a journalist, and her duty was to shine a light in the darkness, no matter the cost. She put her research files in a safe bag and made a mental note to find out more about the Obsidian Lounge, where most people seemed to use the game. The following evening, Isabella decided to visit the Obsidian Lounge. She wanted to see the app in action, to observe the users in their natural habitat. She dressed casually, trying to blend in with the crowd, but her sharp gaze was far from inconspicuous. As she entered the lounge, the same heavy bass and glittering lights washed over her. But this time, she wasn't just observing, she was actively looking for the telltale signs of the app. She sat at the bar, ordering a drink, and pulled out her phone. She looked at her own social media, wondering why she wasn't using the app everyone else was using. She tried to download it again, but the same blank screen came on. She looked around the bar, seeing people staring at their phones and laughing or crying, but all of them with the same look in their eyes. She noticed the same patterns that she had seen in her research. People's actions were too forced, their emotions too extreme, almost as if someone was pulling the strings. Then she spotted him. Alex Sterling, lounging in a booth overlooking the entire room. His eyes swept across the crowd, a faint smile on his lips. Isabella felt a cold shiver run down her spine, the same shiver she felt during her investigative reporting when she got close to the truth. She observed him, watching his interactions with people at the bar. Alex was manipulating the music, the lights, even the interactions of the people around him, all with the subtle use of his phone. Isabella knew instantly that he was the architect behind the game, the puppeteer controlling the digital strings of everyone in this club. She walked past his booth, making direct eye contact. She felt his eyes on her, assessing her, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, the same recognition she had when she first saw the power behind the picture. That night, as she was walking back to her apartment, she felt a strange vibration in her phone. She opened it, and there it was. The game icon had appeared on her phone. It started with a blank screen, but after a few seconds of staring into it, a question appeared on the screen. "Are you curious?" She was surprised. How did it get here? Why only now? She clicked yes. All of a sudden her phone started receiving a stream of information, the same kind of information she had seen during her research, but this time it was her. Her own information, her messages, her web history, and all of it was displayed on the screen like a live stream. It was an invasion, an act of digital warfare. She felt anger rising inside her. Alex was not just manipulating people with his app, he was invading their privacy, and she was a witness to it. The game that he controlled now wanted to control her. Isabella knew this was more than just a story. It was a fight, and she was ready for it. She immediately started taking notes and recording all the information that was appearing on her screen. She knew she had to be smart if she was going to fight Alex. She couldn't just delete the app, as that would stop her from getting more information. She knew she had to play the game to defeat the game. She sent a message, using her voice as a message, "You are exposed," and watched the game glitch before responding with a simple question, "Are you afraid?" Isabella looked at the screen and smiled. Not at all. She was entering into a game now, and she was playing to win. The message Isabella sent, "You are exposed," echoed in Alex's mind, even as he stood amidst the hum of servers in his penthouse. He hadn't expected anyone to break through the game's security, especially not someone who seemed so unaffected. He replayed the brief interaction in his mind, that stare, those words. Isabella Reyes was an anomaly, a glitch in his perfectly crafted digital world. He had always believed he was untouchable, that his father's name and his technological skills made him invincible. But now, for the first time, he felt a tremor of unease. He accessed her profile again, on a separate network. She was doing something different this time. The information stream had started to jump, to look erratic. She was somehow fighting back. He sent a new command into the game, a directive to suppress the information stream, to stop it. But it didn't respond the way other devices did. This wasn't just a fight against his game, it was a fight against him. He decided to test her further. He started subtly manipulating her phone's notifications, sending her fake news stories, alerts, even messages that seemed to be from her friends. He wanted to see how she would react, if she could even notice it. He wanted to see her lose her grip on reality and play by his rules. Meanwhile, Isabella, back at her apartment, was documenting every digital attack, every attempt to control her. She had turned her apartment into a makeshift war room filled with screens, notebooks, and recorders. She knew that she had to beat Alex at his own game, and that she had to do it in the real world. She had started collecting data, recording everything that was appearing on the app. She was gathering evidence to expose Alex, to show the world the dangerous power of the game. She also started to reach out to her sources, the ones that were always in the know. She sent a message to her contact at a local tech blog. "I have a story that will rock this city. I need your help." Her contact, a young tech enthusiast named Ben, responded immediately with a message that read, "Name the place and time." Isabella knew she was playing a dangerous game and she had to trust her instincts. She made an encrypted file containing all the evidence she collected. She sent the file to Ben through multiple encrypted channels so that if Alex managed to hack one, there would still be copies out there. She sent a message to Ben, "The clock is ticking. You need to post this tomorrow before noon." She knew Alex wouldn't let her expose him, but she also knew the truth had to come out. Sooner or later, but it has to be out there and ready for the taking. The next morning, the City Beacon's website was a buzz of activity. A tech blog had leaked an article that showed how the game was collecting data from users and manipulating them. The article had all the evidence that Isabella had gathered from her phone and also from her investigation on different social media accounts. The story spread like wildfire, instantly exposing Alex and his secret app to the world. The comments section was flooded with questions and doubts, all asking to see more evidence. Alex felt the digital ground shake beneath him. His control had slipped and his kingdom had been breached. His image shattered, his app exposed. He looked at the notifications on his phone, the barrage of messages, and for the first time he understood the power of an open platform. He had lost the battle, but the war was far from over, and the leak was just the beginning. Panic surged through Alex as he watched the story about the game explode across the internet. His phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, each one a tiny hammer blow to his carefully constructed reality. He immediately called his father Marcus, his voice tight with suppressed anxiety. "Dad, the story, it's out. They leaked everything." Marcus's voice, usually calm and authoritative, held a sharp edge. "I've seen it, Alex. I'm handling it. I need you to be here in my office now." Within minutes, Alex was in his father's sleek, high-rise office, the walls adorned with framed awards and photos of Marcus shaking hands with world leaders. Marcus was already on a conference call, barking orders to his PR team and legal counsel. The mood in the room was tense. "Shut down all access to the app immediately," Marcus ordered his team. "Scrub every mention of it from the web. I want this leak buried now." The team scrambled into action, a well-oiled machine dedicated to controlling the narrative. Lawyers began crafting carefully worded statements. PR specialists spun the story, trying to reframe it as a misunderstanding. But the story was out, and the internet was not going to let it go. Alex watched the flurry of activity, a mix of fear and a strange sense of exhilaration coursing through him. The world he had always controlled was now pushing back, and he found himself craving for more control. "Alex, I need you to focus," Marcus said, his eyes boring into his son's. "We need to find out who leaked this information and shut them down. I don't want any more surprises." Alex nodded, the unease quickly replaced by a familiar feeling, the thrill of the chase. He had been forced onto the defensive for the first time. But he was going to take back the control. He turned to his digital team. "Find the source of the leak. I want everything they have ever posted, every profile they have ever created." He was using his own skills now, his own ability to track and manipulate. He was going to use the game against its attackers. He quickly managed to find the source of the leak, a tech blogger named Ben, and used the app to manipulate his online reputation. He started spreading rumors that Ben's blog was a fake news site. He started sending messages to his clients, warning them to stay away from the blog. He also made sure to leave some encrypted messages for Isabella to see. He was making it personal now. Meanwhile, Isabella was moving her team to a new location, a secret office away from the spotlight. Her phone was buzzing with messages, but she was ignoring them. She knew Alex would be coming after her, but she had already taken steps to stay ahead of him. Isabella knew this was no longer just about exposing an app. It was about fighting for the right to tell the truth. She knew that she had to be careful, but she was ready for the battle that was coming. Alex was trying to cover up the truth, but Isabella was determined to expose it, whatever the cost. The game had just changed. The fallout from the leak was immediate and intense. The public's trust in Sterling Tech, once unshakable, began to erode. Protests sprang up outside the company's headquarters. Social media was flooded with angry comments, and the stock price plummeted. Marcus Sterling's carefully built empire was beginning to show cracks. Alex, meanwhile, was consumed by his digital hunt for Isabella. He was using the full power of the game to track her online activity, but she was proving to be incredibly elusive, almost like she was a ghost in the machine. He could see her messages, her social media posts, but they were all coded or coming from proxy servers. She was becoming a challenge that he couldn't ignore. He felt a strange sense of respect for her. He knew he was losing control of the narrative. His team of PR experts tried to spin the story, issuing statements claiming the leak was a misunderstanding and that the game was a harmless social experiment. But it wasn't working. People wanted to see the proof and see how Alex was manipulating them all. Isabella, working from her new secret location, was carefully releasing new pieces of evidence, each one more damning than the last. She released videos of Alex manipulating people at the Obsidian Lounge, screenshots of his private messages, and even recordings of his voice commands on the app. She was making sure there was nowhere for him to hide. The evidence was undeniable. The game was not a harmless experiment. It was a tool of control, a way for Alex to manipulate and exploit people's data. The public's anger grew, turning from concern to outrage. People who had once worshipped Alex now saw him as a digital tyrant. With the help of her tech contact, Ben, she started to decipher the source code of the app. What they discovered was even more disturbing than they had imagined. The app was collecting not only personal data, but also their biometric information, heart rates, voice patterns, and even facial expressions, all being collected and analyzed in real time. Isabella released the findings in her next article, sending shockwaves through the public. She knew she had to expose the full extent of Alex's abuse. She wanted to make sure people understood just how much power he had. She had started to call out his father as well. Marcus had to be accountable for what he has created, and if he had helped his son. Alex felt the pressure mounting. He was losing control of everything. His father's team was struggling to contain the damage, and his own efforts to suppress the truth were failing. He looked at his reflection in his dark screen, a mixture of anger, frustration, and a strange feeling he couldn't quite name. Was it fear? He sent Isabella another encrypted message. "You can't win this. It's a game you cannot control." She responded with the same voice message as before. "You are exposed," and now added a new sentence, "and I am just getting started." He was going to be exposed to more than what he was prepared for. He wasn't just losing control, he was becoming a puppet in someone else's game. He was now realizing that he wasn't playing a game anymore, he was just a pawn. The battle between Alex and Isabella escalated into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, both in the digital and real world. Alex, desperate to regain control, began using the game for more direct attacks. He started targeting Isabella's personal contacts, spreading false rumors about them, and creating fake profiles to undermine their credibility. He was throwing everything he had at her, trying to break her before she could expose more. He also started using the app to manipulate the financial markets, targeting specific companies to make the public lose money. He wanted to make an example of them just to show the power he had and what he was capable of. He started targeting Ben, Isabella's tech contact, by creating fake profiles that made Ben look like a fraud, and also sending fake messages to Ben's family members. He was making things personal now. Isabella, however, refused to be intimidated. She worked tirelessly, documenting every attack, every manipulation. She was not going to let Alex win this game. She started working with Ben to expose Alex's digital warfare. She released the evidence of his market manipulation and his personal attacks, and they quickly went viral and sent shockwaves through the financial market and the public again. She realized the only way to defeat Alex was to expose his true self to the world. The tech world worshipped the untouchable, genius young entrepreneur who was destined to revolutionize tech, but Isabella had seen what he was really like. She decided to go beyond the technology and reveal to the world who Alex was as a person. She started interviewing people who had met him, trying to find out more about his true personality. She started to look into his upbringing, his relationship with his father, and the reasons behind his quest for absolute control. Isabella managed to get hold of a copy of Alex's school records. She made sure they were leaked online in the most public way possible, showing a pattern of aggression, bullying, and manipulation in Alex's life since school. She was using Alex's own tools against him. The information was released through multiple encrypted channels just in case he managed to take any one of them down. Alex watched his carefully constructed persona crumble before his eyes. The media, once in awe of his genius, now turned on him, reporting on his past and present actions with scathing criticism. His carefully curated image as the Code King had been replaced with the image of a spoiled, entitled manipulator. The public sentiment had also turned against him. He looked at the notifications on his phone. Each message was more critical than the last. People were calling him out, protesting his actions and demanding justice. He was not in control anymore, and he was starting to panic. He knew that his time was running out. He had to take down Isabella before she could completely destroy him. He focused all his resources on finding her new location. He had to stop her now before it was too late. He sent a message to Isabella, "You're going to pay for this," and he added the coordinates for her new secret office. The stakes had never been higher. For Alex, it was about survival. For Isabella, it was about justice and freedom from control. They were both ready for a final showdown, and they were both fighting for control of the game. Alex stood outside the nondescript building, the coordinates Isabella had inadvertently revealed flashing in his mind. The building was a former warehouse in a less desirable part of the city, a location so ordinary it was almost invisible. He knew this was where Isabella was hiding, and he was ready to confront her face to face. He deactivated the game's more invasive features and approached cautiously. He didn't want to scare her off. He wanted her to know he was coming. He walked inside, finding the warehouse converted into a makeshift office, buzzing with activity. He saw Isabella at a table, surrounded by screens and notebooks. The rest of her team was nowhere to be seen. It was the two of them, a face-to-face encounter in the real world now, not just a fight in the digital space. Isabella looked up, her eyes meeting his. She wasn't surprised to see him. She looked ready for him. "Finally," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I was wondering when you'd stop hiding behind your screens." "I came to offer you a deal," Alex said, trying to regain some sense of control. "Stop this investigation and I'll make it all go away. You can have anything you want. Money, fame." Isabella laughed, a low, humorless sound. "You think you can buy me off? You think your money or power can change my mind? You are even more deluded than I thought." She held out her phone, showing him that she was live streaming their encounter. "You can't stop the truth anymore, Alex. People have seen you for who you are." Alex's anger flared. He had always been able to buy his way out of problems, but this was different. Isabella was different. She was not intimidated by his wealth or his power. She was fighting for something bigger than herself. "I made you, Isabella," Alex yelled, his carefully controlled facade cracking. "I gave you the story. You should be thanking me." Isabella calmly took the phone and showed the screen to Alex. The game showed that everything Alex was saying was being recorded, not just by Isabella's phone, but by others in the building who were listening to them. She had a team all along. Isabella walked towards a nearby wall and put a hand on the electrical board for the building. She looked directly at Alex. "You made me?" she asked, her eyes staring directly at him. "No, I exposed you." And she immediately shut off the electricity for the building. Alex stared in shock, the darkness descending over him. He looked at his phone and realized that the game had stopped. He no longer had control. All his digital tools, all his power, all gone. Isabella stepped out of the darkness with her team, who immediately started filming. Alex was now surrounded, no longer the puppet master, but a puppet in someone else's plan. "You think you can control me with your app?" Isabella asked, her voice echoing in the darkness. "You think your power means something in the real world? You are going to learn a very painful lesson tonight." Alex knew at that moment that he had lost the game. He was no longer in control. His carefully constructed world was crumbling around him. Isabella looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. This was just the beginning. And this was just a single act of the game she was now playing, and this time she was going to win. The warehouse, now plunged into darkness, became a stage for the final act of this digital drama. Isabella, surrounded by her team, used flashlights and the glow of their phones to illuminate Alex, who stood frozen in shock, his digital power stripped away. She had not only outmaneuvered him in the digital world, but also trapped him in the real world. The team immediately started recording every action that Alex made and every word he said. Isabella moved her phone and showed him that everything that was happening here was live on various social media accounts and news channels. He was no longer in control of the narrative. He was now at the mercy of the public and the team that was working to expose him. "You are no longer untouchable, Alex," Isabella stated, her voice resonating with a newfound authority. "You can't use your app to manipulate your way out of this, and your daddy's money won't help you now." Alex, his anger replaced by a dawning sense of fear, looked around at the faces surrounding him. He saw the determination in their eyes, the collective resolve to bring him down. He was now faced with a reality he could no longer control. He tried to call his father, but the phones were being jammed. His father, his power, was no help to him now. Isabella's team, working with the tech blog team, now started releasing all the remaining evidence they had collected. The social media accounts started to explode with posts that exposed everything that Alex and his father had done. The posts showed all the fake reviews, the corrupted officials, all the market manipulations, and the list went on. All the dark secrets were now out for the public to see. The information that was made available showed how Alex had used the game to manipulate people's emotions for his own amusement, all under the guise of a social experiment. It detailed how he had invaded people's privacy, collecting their personal data and using it against them. It also showed all the market manipulations that Alex had been doing to profit from other people's loss. The leaked data also revealed a complex network of corruption extending far beyond Alex, implicating his father, Marcus Sterling, and many other powerful figures in the city. It showed how the powerful had used their wealth and influence to silence those who dared to challenge them. It exposed a system that had allowed the elite to believe they were above the law. The authorities, now flooded with evidence from various sources, had no choice but to take action. Federal agents started raiding Sterling tech offices, seizing computers and documents. They also started to raid the houses of known public officials who were involved in the corruption. Marcus Sterling was arrested for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. The city, once so enthralled by the glamour and innovation of Sterling tech, was now reeling from the shocking revelations. The story of the game became a symbol of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability. The media started to call it the Great Tech Fraud and the Fall of the Code King. Isabella, watching as Alex was led away by authorities, felt a sense of grim satisfaction. She had exposed the truth, and she had helped to bring down a system that had allowed the powerful to prey on the vulnerable. But she also knew that the fight was far from over. There were many other systems of power and corruption that needed to be exposed. This was just the beginning. The days following Alex's and Marcus's arrests were filled with legal proceedings, investigations, and public outcry. The city was in turmoil, shaken by the revelations of corruption and abuse of power. The media was relentless, covering every detail of the story, from the initial leak to the final arrests. The story of the game had become a national headline, a symbol of what happens when unchecked wealth and power meet technology without ethics. Alex, now stripped of his digital armor and facing the consequences of his actions, sat in a prison cell. The reality of his situation finally sinking in. He had spent his entire life believing he was untouchable, above the rules. He now realized that he was just a pawn in a much larger game, a game he never fully understood. He thought about Isabella, the woman he had tried to silence. He had underestimated her, and he had paid the price. He knew that he had created his own destruction. His need for control, his desire to be the master of everything, had ultimately led to his downfall. The control had finally changed, and he was now on the other side, at the mercy of the people he had tried to control. His father, Marcus, faced a harsher reality in a separate prison cell. He had believed that his wealth and connections would protect him, but he was now exposed as a corrupt businessman who had used his power to manipulate the system for his own gain. The same media attention that had once celebrated him was now tearing him apart. His carefully built empire was in ruins, his legacy tarnished forever. He had finally understood that he was never the master of the game. His ambition had made him a pawn, and now he was paying the price. Isabella, working from her new office, continued her work, now using her platform to advocate for digital responsibility, ethical technology, and justice reform. She had become an inspiration, a symbol of resistance against the powerful. Her work had not only exposed one individual, but had also revealed a systemic problem that needed to be addressed. She also started a movement that called for more transparency in the tech world. She started working closely with lawmakers and tech experts, helping them to develop new laws that would protect people's privacy and prevent the abuse of technology. She used the story of the game as a cautionary tale, showing the dangers of unchecked power in the digital age. Ben, Isabella's tech contact, also became a voice for ethical technology. He started his own platform to educate people about the dangers of data collection and manipulation. He and Isabella made a documentary about the game, using all the evidence they had gathered. The documentary was released online and became a global phenomenon, viewed millions of times and sparking a global discussion about digital responsibility. The documentary also featured the testimonies of people who had been affected by the game, victims who had been manipulated and exploited by Alex's actions. It was a powerful reminder of the human cost of technology without ethics. The story of The Game had not just exposed the corruption of Alex and Marcus Sterling, it had also ignited a global conversation about the need for transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior in the tech world. The reckoning was not just about punishing the guilty, it was about building a better and more just future. Years passed. The scars of the game remained, but so did the lessons learned. The city had changed, the culture was different. A new generation of tech leaders, inspired by Isabella's fight, emerged, committed to building technologies that were ethical and responsible. The old ways, the unchecked power, the consequence-free life, they were all gone. Alex, now in his late 20s, was released from prison. He had spent his time reflecting on the damage he had caused, on the life he had thrown away. He was no longer the arrogant, entitled young man who had once believed he was the code king. He had learned humility, empathy, and the true meaning of consequences. His social media accounts remained blocked, a reminder of the digital empire he had lost. He reached out to Isabella not for forgiveness, but to offer his help. He knew he had the knowledge, the skills, and now the motivation to make a difference. She reluctantly agreed to meet with him, her guard still up, but with an acknowledgement of his efforts. They formed an uneasy partnership, using his technological expertise to support her work and help develop new technologies that were designed to empower people rather than manipulate them. He started teaching coding to students in public schools and began making presentations about digital ethics to young minds. Marcus Sterling, having served his sentence, also attempted to rebuild his life, but his reputation remained tarnished. He had lost his wealth, his power, and the respect of the community. He worked at a non-profit organization and dedicated the rest of his life to repairing the damage he had caused. Isabella's work continued, exposing more cases of corruption and advocating for systemic change. She became a leading voice in the fight for social justice. She helped launch a global platform where people could report tech corruption, making sure the voices of the victims were heard. She had finally managed to change the narrative to make sure that the powerful would never again be able to buy their way out of accountability. The legacy of the game served as a warning for future generations, a reminder that technology without ethics is a dangerous weapon. It was not just about Alex Sterling or his corrupt father. It was about a system that allowed the privileged to believe they were above the law. It was about a fight for truth, for justice, and for a future where technology is used for good, not for manipulation or control. The city, once again, was a beacon of innovation, but this time, innovation with responsibility, with transparency, and with accountability. This time, the new generation knew that the game can be changed, the narrative can be shifted, and that justice is not just possible but inevitable. So there you have it, the story of Alex Sterling, the Code King who fell from grace, and the brave individuals who dared to challenge a system built on lies and manipulation. We hope that you enjoyed this story and that it has inspired you to question power, to seek truth, and to fight for what's right. But that is our side of the story. What do you think about it? Did you find it compelling, thought-provoking, or just straight-up entertaining? Tell us in the comments below. The fight for justice never stops and your voice matters. So if you are interested in hearing more stories of truth and consequences, then subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on our next thrilling episode. The next story is one that you don't want to miss. Thank you for watching. And remember, even the most powerful games can be changed if you have the courage to challenge the rules and the will to fight for truth.